Welcome back to another episode. Today we'll be talking with the Teen Mission International. If you're interested in looking into this system, definitely stay tuned for all of the info that our teen today has to share. If you're new to Crowning Moment, welcome. We're on all podcasting platforms and YouTube. Check out our new store at www.crowningmomentpodcast.org. Enjoy today's episode with Teen Mission International. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Crowning Moment. My name is Casey Gibson. For those who are new, this is a pageant podcast posted on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Today we have another special guest and she's going to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Farah Crespo Mahmood and I'm your Teen Mission International 2022.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have you on the episode today. If you could tell the listeners a little bit more about what the Miss Mission International system is and how you won the title.
The Miss Mission International system allows a queen to really bring her own platform onto the stage. It's an inclusive pageant which highlights different cultures, which was something that really spoke to me. I'm a multi-ethnic woman. My mom is Brazilian and Portuguese, and my dad's Pakistani. So it was super important to me to really be part of a system that really loved all that diversity and cherished it. And
that's amazing.
I won on the weekend of September 24th, which was a super amazing week for me. It felt like the sisterhood was really united throughout the whole week.
So with this being such a new system, how did you hear about it and how did you kind of get involved and decide to sign up?
So I was actually approached by the director herself at a pageant I was competing at that I ended up winning second runner-up at. And she told me that she loved my final answer to the question. And she really wanted me to take a look into her pageant and see if it would be something I was interested in. And I ended up falling in love with the Miss Mission International organization.
So how long have you actually been involved in pageants and where did you really get your start?
I've been involved for a couple of years, but I got my start from my mom actually. Pageantry is super big in Brazil, and even though my mom wasn't into pageants, we've had friends who were, and currently the Miss Universe Brazil is actually a family friend. So it was super important for us to really get me into pageantry because of my love for community service and philanthropy.
Amazing. So I know with the Miss Mission International, you bring in your own platform. So what is something that you have brought this year to the table as your platform or your social impact?
So my platform is Women in STEM. But I wanted to make sure that my impact wasn't only geared towards women in STEM because women have so many interests, so many passions, and it's important to highlight all of those passions, but also to give resources to all of those passions. So I have a blog called Super Women Worldwide, which I launched in April of 2022. And its mission is to really provide a voice to every single woman and highlight the women without capes, who are the superheroes. So I've had guest writers from Spain, from all around the world, just writing about their interests, how they got into their interests, and resources for other people who share the same interests as them.
That is amazing. So with being an international title holder, I love that you're definitely hitting that international field. And with being able to get these people to write on your blog, how are you reaching out to them? Is it just through social media or a friend knows a friend? How is that?
It's actually been both. I really wanted to utilize, the connections I do have personally with my friends and other pageant title holders that I've competed with or that I've known of. But I also really wanted to make sure that I gave opportunity to women that I've never met. So I've really utilized social media. I've utilized Instagram DMs. I've utilized Facebook. I've honestly tried to really make a big impact with it.
That is amazing. And like I said, being that international title holder is such a big deal. So going into the Miss Mission International competition for the teen group, what was that like for you? Was it intense? Since it being that first year, was kind of everybody just on the same level of playing field? They didn't really know what was happening.
I think that's what made it so beautiful. We really got to bond, and we actually went during hurricane season. So that in itself really allowed all of the sisters, all of the queens to really get to know one another. And I really feel that by the end of the week, it wasn't a competition itself, but it was a graceful competition. We all were uplifting each other and making sure that, whoever won knew that they were supported by all of us. And if I know that personally, the night of finals, I was super excited, but also anxious because I knew that whichever 3 title holders won, they were going to do an amazing job. And that didn't necessarily take off the crown from any of the other girls.
So, the name of this podcast is Crowning Moment, and I want the listeners to hear a little bit more about what your crowning moment was like. What was your mood? What were you feeling in that moment when the crown was placed on your head at Teen Mission International?
I mean, from the photos itself, I was in complete, utter shock. And I remember the moments leading up to when my name was announced, and me and Teen Mission USA, who she's the first runner-up, I was hugging her. I was hugging her so many times and, just grasping into each other's hands, and really, it felt, I can't even describe the moment, but just being able to share this moment with Janisa, who I had competed in other pageants with her before, and we were roommates. So just that whole build-up from that whole week, it was a surreal feeling.
So going into this system, were people from other countries there, or if they had some sort of ethnicity, were they allowed to grab that country's title? How does that work out for getting a title to go to the pageant?
It allows for both. You can either have ethnic ties. So Miss Poland, she's from the United States, but her ethnic ties to Poland allowed her to compete with the Polish title. But Miss Canada was actually from Canada, so she was actually able to compete with her title.
Wow, that is so amazing. I really appreciate that they're allowing that, because, some of these international systems, they've been going on for years and years and years, and you have to be basically first generation, you have been there forever. So I really appreciate them allowing that. And it just brings so much diversity to the table, especially being that international system. You want to, have the look of being able to celebrate everyone from whatever community they come from, whatever diverse background. So that's amazing. But going forward with this title, you win, you're super excited. What was the first thing you did after winning Teen Mission International?
I actually called up all my friends, and they didn't even know what was happening, but I was FaceTiming them, and they saw the crown, and they were all so happy for me. And then, reality hit, and I was like, oh my God, I actually won. And just having, planning out the next steps, what I want to do during my reign, and really letting it sink in that all of the hard work that I've put for over a year really paid off.
Amazing. Well, I want to ask you a little bit more about you and kind of where you've come from. You mentioned a little bit of your pageant history, and you talked about how your mom is really big with the Brazilian culture. What made you personally want to compete in pageants, just starting a few years ago?
Well, ever since I was around 5 or 6, I've been very into community service and making a difference in my community. So recently I've started partnerships with shelters locally, and I've really had the support of my community with it. But when I was in 3rd grade, I actually started volunteering at an elderly assisted living center. So having that basic foundation of really wanting to make a difference and help people and bring joy into their lives definitely impacted me towards wanting to pursue pageantry.
That's amazing. And I know when I had spoken with your miss about this a little bit more, we talked about her platform that had to do a lot with, helping the elder communities and giving them the resources, because in Colombia, where she has a lot of family at, they don't have, in Venezuela, they don't have those resources for these elderly communities or these retirement homes or even just memory care units. And so with that, is there a platform or an Instagram page that if I have anybody listening out there all over the world that they could donate or possibly get some supplies to you? Is there a way that they could reach out to you?
Reaching out to my Instagram, my personal Instagram, is probably the best way, because I do have ties not only in the US with partnerships to help, but in Brazil as well.
Amazing. And I'll make sure to put that in the caption below. So those that are listening or even watching here on YouTube, you can reach out to her to get some of those resources and possibly get some of those items to her for inside the US or outside. With doing pageants for a few years now, what do you think is the one thing that you've learned the most through your time in pageantry?
Really grasping on to every moment during your journey. And while it might seem that, having those moments aren't as important, or, they're sometimes nerve-wracking, practicing your walk for hours and hours and hours, or, perfecting the way that you want your platform to be. Stay authentic to yourself and really align yourself with your morals. And at the end of the day, your hard work's all going to be worth it.
If you could give advice to anyone out there, any young girl or boy deciding to do pageantry, what would be your one piece of advice for them?
It would have to be to find the beauty in the journey itself. Sometimes it feels like all of the work you're putting in might not be worth it, but at the end, you're going to make amazing friendships. And whether you win or not, you've gained a brotherhood or a sisterhood, and they're honestly going to be another support system for the rest of your life.
That is something I have preached literally the whole past year of having this podcast, and every person I've spoken to in some way or form, that same thing has come up, is making those networking connections, being, that friend to someone. They could be across the world. You have no idea where they're coming from or what they've had to deal with to get there. Just being that nice, kind person to them, and, making sure you're blossoming and checking in on those friends is such an important thing, especially in the pageant world, with this being such a small community, yet kind of large at the same time. It always is nice to make sure that you're checking in on a friend out there. But I like to ask some fun questions just to get to know you a little bit more. And this is outside the pageant world questions, all right? Okay. So like I asked your miss, is there a specific type of, cultural food that you eat from Brazil, or is there anything like a dish that you and your family like to make?
It has to be either feijão tropeiro or moqueca capixaba. Moqueca capixaba is like a fish stew, and it really incorporates a lot of like the state fishes that are available around us. So those two plates are both foods that we love sharing as a family with all of our extended family. So it really reminds me of all of those memories.
Okay, so with the whole culture of Brazil, what do you think would be like your favorite holiday or anything that you celebrate with your family?
I think it's hard to necessarily pick a holiday, but definitely when the World Cup is around or any soccer games, we always unite, and, we have a lot of food and there's a lot of music.
I know that we just had the FIFA World Cup, so I was going to ask, did you guys have a big celebration for that, or come together as a group and kind of hang out and watch the soccer games?
I was at school, but my family in Brazil, they had the wigs, they had the glasses, they were all out for the soccer games.
That is amazing. You mentioned you're in school. What are you studying and where are you going to school at?
I'm actually a biology pre-med major, and I go to school at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Wow. Okay. So what brought you to go to pick that specific university for the major you're in?
So I was actually accepted into an early acceptance program with a College of Osteopathic Medicine. So it worked out for me greatly that I was still able to pursue my passion of biology in a school that offers so many resources for music, which is one of my greatest passions.
That's amazing. So once you've graduated and everything, what is your dream job that you could see yourself doing in the next 5 years?
Well, I have like 3 areas, which I'm a little iffy about, but I can see myself in either of these 3 areas: dermatology, plastic surgery, or trauma surgery.
Wow. Oh, goodness. Okay, so with all of that, this is a very off-the-wall thing. Are you on that side of TikTok? I know that's a weird question, but I somehow got onto the dermatology side of TikTok probably like 2 months ago, and it just won't go away. I don't know. Maybe I just like too many videos. So I wanted to ask, is that some side of TikTok that you're on as well? I love that. So with being, Teen Mission International, is there any sort of sponsors that you would say that you love working with, or anyone in the Mission International system that you have really appreciated as a sponsor?
Lola's, which is located in Manalapan, New Jersey. She's our amazing dress sponsor, and she really picks out pieces of dresses for us to wear that are really similar to our personality. She always kills it.
I love that. That is so important. I love when dress sponsors really do read into the girls' personalities and what they want. One of my favorite things that a dress sponsor did was actually sent out a personality, like a quiz, so they knew exactly what style of dress you wanted, what the look best on you, and then you could add in some photos on there so they could see what you've worn in the past and to see what looks best on you, rather than just, sending you a random dress that you're like, oh, thank you. Like, I don't know if I'll really be able to wear this. So I really appreciate that. That's so nice of them to actually be invested in the girls that they're, sponsoring and supporting. And I want to ask you a few quick questions about how people can get involved in the Teen Mission International system and how they should contact or find a way to join.
So applications are currently open for all of the national titles. So either reaching out to us on our email, or looking through each of the Elite, Teen, and Miss Instagram pages directly explains how you can get involved and how the application process will look like.
Amazing. And I will make sure to put those links in the bottom to the Elite, Miss, and Teen pages. So if there's any users out there that are interested in joining into the Mission International system, or just looking for their next pageant, and maybe this one has struck your attention, I'll make sure to put those below so you guys can get in touch with them in an easier way than having to dig all the way through Instagram. But we have come to that point in the podcast where I like to ask everyone the same final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. In what way has pageants positively impacted you?
Pageants has allowed me to bring my voice to a stage. It has given me immense resources and immense networking opportunities where I'm able to uplift the girls around me while also uplifting myself.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining in on today's episode. I hope that everyone listening out there or watching on YouTube are able to hear a little bit more about what this system is about, and of course to meet you. And it was so nice for me meeting you the first time ever here on our recording studio online. But thank you again to the Mission International system for sharing your teen and miss with me on the podcast this year. It truly has been amazing. And guys, you never know what happens in the future, so I guess you'll have to check out next week on another episode of The Crowning Moment. Bye, guys!
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode with Teen Mission International. If you're interested in learning more about Crowning Moment, don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on whatever podcasting platform you're listening on. Check us out on Instagram at Crowning Moment Podcast. Signing off, I'm Casey Gibson, host of Crowning Moment Podcast.